what's up, everybody? How you doing? Dave Fenoy here, another Wednesday, and we are together again on another Ask Dave Fenoy Anything. Missed you last week. There was a big SAG-AFTRA meeting on the strike against video games, and although I wasn't a person delivering information, I definitely wanted to be a person receiving that information about where we are and what's going on with that. Kind of scary times right now. The AI writer, how these companies feel about us as talent. They'd love to work without us. So it's incumbent upon all of us to pay attention. And I don't just mean we voice actors, definitely we voice actors, but workers in this country in general. They're coming for us. They are coming for us. All right, enough of that. This Ask Dave Fenoy Anything will live after the fact on my YouTube channel, Dave Fenoy Voiceover Training, where all the other Ask Dave Fenoy Anythings are 24/7, 365. You can go there and just go through the shows and get information here and there and if you're interested in training with me, davefenoy.com, click on the Study VO tab at the top and book yourself. And you can follow me at Dave Fenoy VO on X, Twitter, whatever it's called. Thought about jumping off, but I stayed on. Anyway, let's say hello to our guest. There he is, Mr. Jamie Muffet. How you doing, Jamie?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm excellent, and that looks to me like a Studio Bricks booth.
It is. Yeah, I got this in 2022. We had our conference in New York, and we had a booth on the stage, and this was the one that I bought. So actually, a lot of people have been in this booth. Everyone who came to the conference came in. There's a few people crowded in. It was quite a fun time.
And you probably got it for a good price.
Got a little bit of a discount, yeah.
Little bit of a
discount. Still pretty expensive, I'll be honest.
Well, they are. And just while we're talking booths, I would get a Studio Bricks. I really like the product. I think it's a good product. But I have a 5x7 whisper room that I've had for more than a decade that works just fine. So,
well, there we go.
Well, there we go. So, we were talking a little bit before we got on, and we have so many people in common. So many people that I work with a lot, that you work with a lot, and yet somehow we've never really, bumped into each other, spent time, broken bread, had drinks or anything. And I think it's because you're living in the wrong place.
Yes, I think you're probably right. Well, I mean, I don't go to too many in-person events. Not necessarily just because I'm a bit antisocial, which there is a part of that. But it's not easy for me to travel around, so I tend to be quite internet.
A homebody.
So yeah, a bit of a homebody. So,
okay,
but
I can tell by that accent of yours that you're not from America. How did you end up in Bucks County, Pennsylvania?
Well, the long story is that I married an American lady, and she lived with me in the UK for a bunch of years. We met in Florida, actually, years and years ago. And as usually happens, we had a little holiday romance, and then made the connection. She lived with me in the UK, and then when we finally got through the process of getting her citizenship, we thought, actually, you know what? Let's move to America. Let's try that. She's had the experience of the UK. I'd like to have the experience of the US. And a few things sort of wound down in the UK for me, and opportunities arose in the US. And we had the opportunity to move to New York, and we sort of just grabbed it with both hands. And in 2009, we made the transition over to New York and haven't really looked back. So we were there until 2017, and then we moved out to here.
Oh, coolness. So, how'd you get started in this wacky business?
Well, I come at it from the music world. I was in music production. I was in bands and stuff when I was younger, but that sort of became a proper job in studios. And so I had the sort of production experience, which was a fairly easy transition. And I only really thought about it just before moving to the US because the plan was to work in music over here. And I was like, well, I got a British accent. Maybe I can hawk that. I got the recording equipment, so let's give it a try. And I signed up to one of the larger online platforms and set up a profile, and like within a week, booked a gig. And I was like, "Oh, this is easy. I'll do that." Little did I know, it's not that straightforward. But this was a time where you could set up a profile on one of those sites, put up a shoddy demo,
and
and
and what
somehow
year
book
what
work.
year was that again?
That was the beginning of '09, so like June, July time in
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
2009. So
yeah. The pay to play
yeah, I was
sites were much younger then.
yeah,
Not as many
yeah.
people on them. That's interesting. And now, so you started booking. Did you just
Mhm.
continue booking, or did it take a while in between? What kind of training did you have?
Zero training. And I knew that the tech stuff was very handy. That was very helpful. It got me out, got over that hurdle quite quickly. Um, but yeah, I moved to New York and just emailed Atlas Talent, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we could do with a Brit." I mean, and it was it's so annoying for people to hear my story because it's so painless, but it didn't end up being that painless. But the first couple of steps were like, "Oh, just do this, and I got some work. I'll go to the best agent on the in America," and they were like, "Cool, let's do it." And so anyway, I freelanced with them, and as work doesn't flow that easily. So it took a while to actually sort of develop myself. And I was going to in-person castings, and it was terrifying at first. And the sign-in sheet and all these other professional actors there, and doing their warm-ups and stuff. And I was didn't know what the hell I was doing really. But I eventually got to the point where I was like, yeah, I should probably take a few classes or figure out what I'm doing here, because I was completely riding on the fact that I had an accent, fully, like that was the only string I had to my bow. And
That
yeah, so I just sort of took advantage of that, and then had a few classes here and there, and figured it out. And then I quite quickly booked a series of audiobooks. So that was kind of straight into the deep end, really, with that. And I just remember that over a summer in a tiny little room in New York with no AC, just recording these audiobooks, in my underpants, and that's it, not a pretty image. And, you know, and yeah, I sort of learnt the ropes, like working the job, and, that's how
well,
it sort of figured out.
that is very different from just about everybody I know in the biz.
Yeah.
To have that kind of welcome into the biz without weeks, months, years of practicing. Now that you're in the biz and you've been doing it for a while, what would you tell yourself back then that you didn't know that you know now?
Well, I would have advised me to get coaching much, much sooner, because my ascension could have been much, much quicker
Yeah.
had I done coaching, for
And
sure.
and and what were some of the things that your coaches told you that made a difference for you? And I'm asking this
Yeah.
kind of for other people.
I mean, I always had an interest in acting. I'd done a lot of acting when I was younger, and so it was kind of in my bones a little bit. But what I really struggled with was developing my own voice, and being natural and real behind the mic. I could do characters, and I could sort of play characters relatively easily. I never really had a problem with that too much. But just giving myself the permission just to do me completely authentically was
Hmm.
such a struggle, and believing that that was like a sellable product, like I just didn't really believe it, so
You know, it's
I could
it's
have gone there,
interesting.
but not there.
It's interesting. I tell students all the time, and I think this is an issue we all go through. But I tell students all the time that yes, listen to the voiceover actors that you admire. There are things to be learned, but there's something unique and special about you.
Yeah,
And your view of the world, the natural song in your voice, not a song you make up, but your natural song and world point of view. And that's what's going to
yeah,
make you special.
yeah, 100%. I mean, you put it much more poetically than I could ever put it, but I completely agree. There's something, if you want to be truly competitive, it's do it your way because no one else is competition at doing that. Even
Yeah.
if there's 400 or 500 other people going up for the gig, if what they're looking for, whoever they are, a casting director or a client or, whoever production company, if what they are looking for is what you do naturally and you do that every single time, those gigs you're going to book when they come along,
Yeah.
because none of us book every gig we audition for, far from it, so you might as well, playing it safe by not going at it authentically, not going at it with your creativity
Trying to
and
give them
inspiration.
what do they want? What are they
Yeah, it
asking
never
for?
works.
And on one hand, you can't not you can't ignore what they're asking for, but at
Yeah,
the same time, you can't get out of yourself and become something else to do it.
exactly. Yeah, I completely agree. I always think to myself, in terms of interpreting specs, or if you're working live with a casting director or something, it's like, it's not twisting yourself into a pretzel trying to be what they want.
Hmm.
It's hearing what they want and interpreting that, going, well, what does what they want apply? How does that apply to me?
Yeah.
And then making it authentic to you, and then just having the confidence to give them that. And if that's what they want, great. If that's not what they want, well, fine, they'll find someone else.
No.
It's sort of, getting out of that sort of desperate, oh, please book me for the gig. That's the biggest turn off in an audition or in a person, if you're wanting it too much, right? So having that sort of confidence of like, this is what I do, if you like it, great. If you don't, that's fine. But that took me an awful long time to develop that confidence to be able to just like free myself to be able to do that.
Well, let me ask you this, and this is just off the top of my head. I'd written down a few questions here, but do you audition for everything that comes your way? Do you look at scripts sometimes and go, you know what, that's not for me. I'll let that go.
Yeah, the latter. There are a bunch of stuff that I go, no, not for me. Sometimes it's for a practical purpose. Like if it's a game that's going to have a lot of screaming and shouting, I'm like, do I really want to trash my voice on this? Like, um, I get it because I'm an accented voice over here. I get a lot of, oh, well, you can also do Australian, or you can also do Irish, or there's the assumption that I can just do all that stuff. And I'm okay at accents. I'm pretty good. Anything within the British Isles, I'll take a stab at. But the moment they are looking for anything authentically this, I'm like, I'm out. That's not me. A native is going to pick that up immediately.
Well,
But yeah, yeah,
if you can do all those accents in the British Isles, well, maybe not all, but lots of them,
yeah,
I,
yeah,
I,
the
I don't think
biggies.
I've ever been any place that had more accents within a
Yeah,
smaller area. Just in London itself,
yeah, yeah,
there's numerous accents. It's kind of crazy, and of course, as an American, a lot of us American actors are a little pissed off at all you English actors coming over here doing perfect American accents and taking our work. But
Well,
that's
you don't have to worry about that. My American is pretty atrocious, so you don't have to worry about that from me.
so.
You're safe. Don't worry.
Do you ever work in an American accent?
I have done, but the only time I'll ever do it is when it's really elevated, really cartoonishly American. Like
Okay.
I did a Batman game, where I showed up and they cast in New York because they wanted authentic, like New York/Gotham accents, right? And they hired me, and I was like, oh, is this for like Alfred, or like what is this for? I was like, no, American. I was like, well, why should you hire me? But yeah, when it's really heightened, I can up it. Because it's cartoonish or whatever. It's animated. I can go there. But anything that requires anything like really studied and authentic, I'm like, there's the natives, albeit do a far better job than mine.
There you go. Let's talk equipment. I always try to find out
Mm.
what people's studios are like. Once again, studio bricks. I can tell from the little foam there. But other than that, what's the rest of your gear? What works for you doing your voiceover?
Yeah, I've stripped it back. As you can imagine, being a sort of past engineer, I always used to overcomplicate things, but it's just literally mic interface. That's it. Straightforward. No outboard gear or anything like that. I've got a 416. This is the what's it called? NTG5 by Rode. Um, I find it's a little less fatiguing sounding, for whatever
Now,
reason.
what do you mean less fatiguing sounding? I'm not sure I understand that.
Well, I find the 416 can be a little bright, a little
Mm.
harsh sounding almost on my voice. I don't know what it is, something about my T's and S's or something, I guess. This one I find it a little more mellow. So usually with long form stuff, like if I'm doing an interview or something, I'll stick the NTG on. It seems to be a little more natural sounding, a little rounder. But yeah, I mean, in terms of gear, I just go into an Apollo Twin, and I've got some of the plugins that I use on the way in. So I'll just give a very tiny amount of compression, a bit of the Pultec EQ, and that's it really. If that's pretty much what they get. I can process it a bit in Pro Tools if necessary, but I pretty much send them
But
what comes out of that.
with your engineer background, you actually have the knowledge how to do that. Very often, I
Yeah.
have had students from time to time that uh, they get on and it's just
Yeah.
breathing
Pumping.
compression. It's pumping.
Yeah.
They've either cranked up the mid or they've cranked up the bass if their voice was higher and they were trying to. Uh, and what typically works is very little. And what
Yeah.
I always suggest is just enough compression that they don't know it's there.
Oh, 100%. I
Yeah.
always equate it to like if you're a butcher, you want to get this fine cut of meat. You don't want to pre-season it. You don't want to pre-cook it. You just want a great slab of meat that you can give to your customer. And that's kind of how I think of it. I don't want to, like you said, anything that's audible, if you can hear the processing, it's too much.
Yeah.
The only it's really more the processing that I do is more to satisfy me than anything else because I'm like, oh, I think this. I'm just doing tiny little notches of boosts and cuts just to make it, to my ears at least, sound a little bit better. If anything, just gives me confidence that what I'm sending out sounds good. So yeah.
Now, in your career, people ask me often, what's the favorite thing that I do? And truth is, I love just about every aspect of doing voiceover except possibly audiobooks because
Yeah.
I'm more of a sprinter than a marathon runner. But
Yeah.
what's the hierarchy of joy in voiceover jobs for you? What do you like doing the best?
Oh, I think promo's really fun because you get to really be a part of the show. You get to vibe with the show a bit. And it's like you just said, it's more of a sprint than a marathon. I'm not an audiobook guy at all. Those audiobooks I did in New York were enough for me. Um, got a bad association with them.
I've notoriously said I've done three. I hope to do I hope to never do a fourth. I've ended up doing about six or seven, but
Yeah.
I don't seek them out.
Hats off to audiobook narrators. It's a hell of a job, and keeping track of the characters, particularly fiction, and that what is it? Was it eating the elephant one fork at a time? I think
Yes.
Sean
Yeah.
describes it as. I really love documentary narration. I think because it's interesting, even if it's sort of odd subject matter, it's kind of fun to dip in and out of that. I do. vet show quite regularly called Bondi Vet, and I've done stuff for Nat Geo, and that's always interesting, and Smithsonian and what have you. So I really like the documentary stuff, and pretty much anything that isn't extremely long form. There's a sort of sadomasochistic part of me that enjoys medical narration just because it's a real, you know, challenge. If you've got the really 27 syllable words in there, it's kind of a fun challenge.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to
Enjoy that.
open this up and let's see what a few people are saying. This one I know is for me. Stacy, the Walking Dead fan. Hi, Dave. George Whittam, Jamie Muffet is a huge talent, and VOcation voiceover is a brilliant conference. Great choice in guests, Dave. Thank you, George.
Thanks, George.
And let me just say this, since he brought it up. I had the distinct pleasure of being invited to VOcation to be a keynote speaker. I forget what year, 3 years ago. It was a wonderful, wonderful experience. It was a wonderful, wonderful conference. I've got to put it up there. If you're going to VO Atlanta, if you're going to That's Voiceover, if you're going to VOcation, you're doing okay. You're doing okay. Let's see. Uh-oh. Does anybody else hear this? You're generating echo from your end, Dave. Sounds like an open speaker in your room. I think I've turned them down, and I think they're gone. A little hello here from the lovely Livia Zita Loque. Thank you for another great ADFA episode. We got a little greetings from DF Raisin. Greetings from Maryland. Hey, we're all over the place. And we've got a nice question here. Question for Jamie. Is it possible to get UK representation? Good question. I'm getting my animation interactive demo done tomorrow by a demo producer, and I'm thinking about a UK agent. Any tips?
I'm assuming they are American
Yes.
over here. Yeah,
Yes.
I think that's an easy. I'm not a good person to ask because I've spent years trying to get representation in the UK, and because there's just so much UK talent on the ground, they won't touch me with a barge pole. But as an American talent, you have something a little more unique to offer, So I would just go ahead and research the top agencies and go to their submission page and check out how they accept submissions, if they are accepting submissions, and then get in contact.
And it's so much easier now than it was, say, a decade ago. With the internet, the world is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And if you've got something really to offer as a voiceover talent, I'm sure there will be an agent there that would be willing to take you on. And I wouldn't just look in the UK. They are looking for American voices all over the world. A lot of countries that aren't English speaking, but they have English speaking programs and a number of English speakers there to serve.
I would say when reaching out to any agent is definitely have your ducks in a row with your studio and with everything, your website, your marketing materials, everything, so that they have something that they can actually use. Because you can imagine agents are getting tens, maybe hundreds of submissions every week. Exactly. So if you give them any reason to just go, not for me, you're never going to get anywhere. So you have to really work with reps. You have to have everything ready to go.
I think they're in a position now where they're looking for reasons not to listen to your demo, reasons not to take the time, because they're getting so many submissions. Everybody thinks this is, I just have to talk. I just have to read this and talk. Oh, that's great. And you've got some people out there that are saying that, oh yeah, you can make millions in voiceover. Just get your microphone, take some classes from me, and everything will be great. And it doesn't work like that. Got another question
No.
here. DF Raisin said hello. Now he's saying something else. Greetings, gentlemen. Jamie, how did you get into voicing video games? And is there a favorite role or character you've done so far?
Pretty much all of my video game work has come through my agents. So it's either direct bookings off my demo or more likely through auditions. So get with a good agent that, Dave's the master at this, have great representation. And if you want to work in AAAs, you need to be a member of the union because it's all union gigs. So, you have to sort of work back from there, have a great studio. What's my roadmap to getting into the union? What's my roadmap to getting really great representation? And then these opportunities will filter towards you, and
Yeah.
even once you've signed with an agent, you still have to sort of get on the radar of the agents within that agency that, represent video games. So, you sort of find that goal and then strategically work back from there to the point of where you're at right now. By far, my favorite role is in a game called Rainbow Six Siege. I play a character called Thatcher, and I recorded that, I don't know, over 10 years ago, and I'm still recording parts for it. And they have a big there we go. They have a big convention up in Canada every year, and this was one of the years that I went, and they do, it's like in an arena. It's like the sort of World Cup for this game, and it's nuts to, the sort of competitive gaming aspect of it. And we did a signing, and it was a great time. So yeah, that's probably my favorite role.
It's interesting. You mentioned the competition with games. We know that there are gamers online who are making a lot of money just playing online, but there are actual competitions around the world where this team against this team, and I'm sure many of you know about this, but I'm amazed at how many people don't. I was amazed. A number of years ago, I was invited to be a guest for a video game challenge, and it took place up in Seattle. It was in a huge auditorium, and you had a team of 5 on this side of the stage, a team of 5 on this side of the stage. The room could hold about 1,000 people or more. In the middle were like sports broadcasters broadcasting. Oh, and he's got him. Oh no, he's not going to get out of that one. Ah, look out! And these, 1,000 or 2,000, I think it was 2,500 seat stadium or auditorium with this huge screen, like a movie screen. And the prize for the winning team was $1 million. And that's like 10 years ago. They're more now. Colleges are recruiting gamers with scholarships because they're going to be fielding teams. It's insane.
Yeah.
So
wasn't it Fortnite? They had one of their I don't know what you call it, like the final of this thing. I think it was in Madison Square Gardens. They had one of them. It was absolutely gigantic. I mean, it was just like the Super Bowl or something.
And by the way, you Fortnite fans, you can find me as the director on Fortnite Save the World.
Cool. Very cool.
Just had to get that little plug in. Bernard Tanner Jr. Hello, Dave, and good evening, Mr. Muffet. Oh, wow. I'm going to be calling you that forever. Mr. Muffet. I'm often mistaken for British or South African every time I have attended VO Atlanta, even by British and South African VO talents, which always shocks me. And I don't know if you've probably never met Bernard Tanner, this gentleman.
No. I think we're friends on Facebook.
Yeah. Bernard has an amazing voice. He has an amazingly deep voice. He is so well spoken. He is so clear in his enunciation. And I think sometimes because his voice is so deep and rich and his enunciation is so clear, people think he's from someplace else.
Yeah.
But he's American. He's American. And one of the best read people I have ever met. It's always a joy to see him, uh, just to hear him speak and quote after quote after quote of famous people doing famous things who have done famous
Oh, wow.
things.
That sounds cool.
Amazing guy. If you've got questions, good time to get them in right about now. Let's talk about one of the things. Now, when we were talking before, you said, well, I'm kind of a shy guy and it's kind of a homebody, and which I was wondering, your name has come across my eyes many, 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 many times in a lot of voiceover situations, but we had not really spoken, not really met. And I was surprised by that because we have so many people in common. And he said, well, I'm kind of shy. I'm kind of a homebody. And there you are in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. But you are co-founder of VOcation and eVocation as well. Tell us a little bit about both.
Well, this was a sort of collaboration between me and Karen Gilfrey. I'm sure everyone knows Karen. And way back in the day, I had a podcast called the VO School Podcast. She had a group in New York called the Voice Actors of New York City. And we met up and we were like, isn't it weird how there isn't a conference in New York City? And so we were like, well, we don't just want to do the same conference that everyone else does, because there was plenty of those out there. So we thought, why don't we do something in New York, and why don't we do something different? And so we came up with the idea that we'd do a conference devoted just to the business side of voiceover, no performance aspects whatsoever, because, but it's pretty much what you spend most of your time doing is everything outside of the booth, really. So that's what we planned on doing, and we did our first conference. When was that? 2018, I think, maybe 2019, and we held it in New York City. And it was on the Upper West Side. It was like in the city. It wasn't like at an airport nearby the city. It was in the city, at a venue in the city. And we had an amazing time. It was so good. The vibe was incredible. And despite the fact that it was business, it really wasn't a buttoned up event. It was just a super fun event. We had a drag act at the party. It was amazing. And then we had all these plans for the following year, and we were like, oh, we're going to go bigger and better, and we've got all these ideas. And then COVID came along. So as everyone had to do, we had to shift our plans, and we switched it to the virtual realm. And because of the nature of the content, it kind of worked quite well, because the presenters could share their slides on the screen. And, we did everything we could to foster that sense of community in the virtual world. And it was, far be it from me to say, but it felt like a real big success. People really had a good time. And so the following year, we were still, 2021, it was still, people were in, people were out, it was still partially locked down. And we did it again, and people really liked it. And so we've done that ever since. That's eVocation. And, for people that aren't able to go to in-person conferences, or have, health issues, or maybe they're looking after a relative, or maybe they just live, in the middle of nowhere and it's just hard to get places, that has become a core part of what we do. So the in-person events, we've been able to push the boat out a little bit and go a bit more extravagant. And we've now been to Cancun and Costa Rica, and next year we're going to Curacao, which is part of that Aruba complex of 3 islands, and whilst doing the virtual conference as well. So we're doing we missed out on the sort of tropical conference this year. We needed a break. But yeah, we do those 2 events each year.
Well, I tell you, I have not been to the eVocation, which I guess I could have been right here to do.
Yep.
But the invitation to go to Cancun and be the keynote speaker and just enjoy Everything that was offered, you guys really put it together in a great way. You chose a place that was all inclusive, so you weren't, oh God, can I afford to eat breakfast today? Um,
Yeah.
so all the meals were there, the drinks were there. Um, the weather was wonderful. There was a beach. If you came with your kids had something to do. It was just amazing, and I'm sure that the upcoming event in Curacao will be just as wonderful.
Well, I should say it was a real honor that you accepted, being a keynote for Cancun because we had a very, very short list of one people that we wanted to be the keynote speaker, and he couldn't do it, so we asked you. No, it was no, but we were very honored to have you speak. And it was such a we didn't really know if it would work, and the all-inclusive nature is very important to us. We're only ever looking at doing all-inclusives because of the exact reason you just said.
Yeah,
Like, we want everyone when they're there. Yeah, it can be a little expensive to fly places and stay in a hotel and everything, but once you're there, everyone is on the same plane, on
yeah,
the same level. If you
yeah,
want to go to dinner with someone and have a meeting or just catch up or just talk about, I don't know, football or whatever, like, you go for it. Like, there's no extra costs whatsoever.
yeah.
So that was an important part of it for us. So yeah, we love doing it, and we'll keep doing it.
Oh, there you go. Let's see who we got here. Mike Cunningham, how you doing, man? Congratulations. Where do you see your career headed over the next 5 years? What trends are you preparing for, and how are you keeping your tools sharp?
Oh, that's a great question. Um, I'm just 5 years feels like a lifetime to me in this sort of fast-paced world. Um, I have honestly no idea where I see it headed. Uh, in terms of keeping sharp, is just really trying to stay ahead of trends or on top of trends of what's happening right now. And that means if you work in video games, is playing video games. If you work in commercials, is listening to all the commercials, if et cetera, et cetera. Um, it's an interesting time for us all. We're all concerned about AI. It's this sort of ever evolving monster that is sort of rearing its head in all kinds of odd places. I was never really particularly excited when it first came along, but I'm starting to notice that there is becoming a sort of we're sort of returning back to that era where there's elite work and then there's no work. It's basically all about work that is people that are willing to pay a premium to hire a human being. So that's not great. It's harder for people to break into the industry. It means there's less of that sort of bread and butter work out there. So then I think for me, it's all about staying as on top of my skills as possible. So coaching, just getting feedback, making
Now,
sure that
you've been in the business how long now? 15 years?
16 years.
16
Yeah,
years?
16 years
And
in July.
you just said something important. Still getting coaching.
Sporadically, but
Yeah,
yes. I mean,
yeah.
I feel like it's an important part of it. Yeah, for sure. Because you
Uh,
do need that perspective on yourself that other people, oh, you won't have yourself, and other people aren't. It's not their responsibility to give you. you
Yeah,
know?
and I bring that up because I think it's brilliant of you, and I think most of us, myself included, from time to time, need to benefit from somebody else's ears and mind. We can get into habits. Something's been working for you that becomes kind of a style, but styles go out of style.
Yeah,
And sometimes you need someone else that's willing to tell you the truth about, oh, you could do this better. You got to take your ego out of it uh, to keep going. So I know for myself, from time to time, it's not as often as I'd actually like because I'm busy. Uh,
yeah.
but I think it's a very good idea to put yourself under somebody else's tutelage that you trust who is on the cutting edge of what's going on to help yourself stay current?
Yeah, I think at least for me anyway, I can sense myself getting a little sloppy. Like I just particularly if you got 5 or 6 auditions you need to just bash out, or they're like ASAP type auditions. It's more like you're just getting them done rather than you're putting that thought process into it and really you know being
But there I actually think there's some auditions that are going to take a little more time and work and
yeah
care than some others.
yeah
And just like if you are doing a lot of animated voices, you develop a few, and then you alter them this way or that way for this character, this way or that way for that character. There are some types of voiceover work that, okay, let me pull that out of the hat, and I'm not contradicting myself about training. But we do learn, okay, oh, it's that kind of thing, let me do this. Oh, it's that kind
mm,
of thing, let me do this. Which is like being a musician that learns to play different styles.
yeah
If you can play R&B and rock and jazz and God forbid country, I'm sorry, country fans. That's why Beyonce got a country album. It's all okay.
yeah. She's approved it.
She's a yeah. We can do that now, but historically, we were the ones who were doing it first anyway. The banjo, all of that. But let's not get into
Yeah.
Black history. Let's get into another question. We got Sarah Cart. Hi, Dave. Hi, Jamie. Thank you for coming. I had two questions. I had a two questions. Two questions? Okay. One is what you may have covered, but what is your mic pre you use, aka UA interface based? Also, where are you from in the UK? For those of us learning British accents, what can an artist do to practice British accents as an American speaking VO artist?
Well, my interface is an Apollo twin, and so it's just the 2-channel Apollo twin, simple as that. So I got a redundancy, I got a backup if one channel goes down. So it's very straightforward. I don't use any of the they have these like preamp models. I don't use any of that stuff. It's just the preamp that's built into the actual device. In terms of British accents, or doing any accent really, I think a big part of it is developing your ear, and so recognizing when something doesn't sound right is a big part of it, so you can at least fix it at source. So if you're wanting to do British accents, is watch a lot of British TV, watch British movies, listen to British guys on and girls on podcasts, consume that content so you've got the rhythm and the flow of it in your head. And that's a good starting point. And then you can go to someone like a Nick Redman, who is a fantastic accent specialist and voice specialist in the UK. Nick Redman, Nicredman. She's fantastic at helping people get accents, and she's based in the UK. She's from Northern Ireland, I believe. Maybe Ireland. I don't know. But she would be a person I would definitely reach out to work on your British accent.
Speaking of people who are good with accents, and I don't know if she just said hi and left, but this young lady, Eliza Jane Snyder, who has spent many, many, many years learning accents, and she is one of the people who is very recognized as someone who can help you with a variety of accents, and she's a voiceover actor herself. So
Yeah, wonderful.
there's something. And I hope she's still on and could hear that she got a plug. I wanted to ask. Oh, your VO School podcast, which you told me earlier is winding down, but how did that start? And it's winding down, but something new is coming, or something new is there. What was your motivation for your VO School podcast, and tell us more about that?
Well, this all started. Oh, when was that? I want to say
Yeah, back in olden
2015.
times.
Yeah, yeah. It was quite a while ago. It was when a lot of these sort of fly-by-night type, I've done voiceover for 3 minutes, let's do take my course type folks would came in and were really hawking these scammy type education courses in voiceover. And it was all billed as earn X amount of dollars in your PJs, and it was all complete rubbish, and it was just horribly scammy, and it was just selling a dream that wasn't reality. And so I was getting really wound up by it. Every time you go online, you see these ads for these things, and I was like, "Do you know what? I'm just gonna do a podcast." There weren't too many voiceover podcasts at the time, so I wasn't, contributing to the problem. Um, And I was just, I'll put this information out, at least the things that I know and people that I trust with this information, and I'll put it out for free and let people decide for themselves. And so every episode was structured. So we sort of built episode on episode, a bit like a course. And so it was various business aspects and various performance aspects and different genres of voiceover. And it was kind of loosely structured, as in you start at episode 1, and then by the time you get through, you've pretty much covered most bases. And of course, it was very generic because it wasn't tailored, it wasn't one-to-one coaching, but it at least would give you enough information to be dangerous, rather than coming in completely cold and be easily sold to, and be easily manipulated. So my motivation was to sort of put these guys out of business as much as possible, so there was a free thing out there you could listen to. And, that was my initial motivation. It wasn't necessarily one particularly honorable, but, you know.
Right. It's interesting because I remember a period of gurus and ninjas and senseis and whatever else they were calling
Yeah,
themselves. And
bearded
uh,
guys.
and one of the things that I found the most despicable is you can give someone information, but just having the information doesn't train you.
No.
This is a performance-based art or job, whatever you want to call it. And you have to learn the mechanics and the art of it, and you need somebody that's listening to you, hears what it is you're doing. A lot of times, uh, you've done a read, you felt good while you were doing it, you listen back and, something's not right. What's wrong? And sometimes you don't know what it is. You need to have somebody there that can tell you what it is you're doing wrong and how to do it right. How to help you find your own voice. Otherwise, you're just spending money and uh, taking courses that really aren't going to take you anywhere.
I had a few people that were a bit miffed at me for putting this information out there, and I was like, "Well, hang on. If you can be so easily put out of business by me spouting out some generic advice, what are you doing? What are you giving people? If are you just repeating the same old thing to every person? Well, why on earth are you charging money for one-to-one coaching? It's like you just said, it's got to be tailored. Everyone's voice is unique, their interests are unique, their experience is unique. What their marketability is unique. Like there are so many aspects of every one person's career when they started in the industry is unique. What their responsibilities outside of voiceover,
Yeah.
that determines how you could approach this industry. So it's it's so tailored, but there are general principles too that it would make that one-to-one. I do coaching occasionally as well. And I often say to people, look, listen to this podcast, get all this general information under your belt first, so we don't cover this stuff in class, because I want that to be all about them, all like you just described. So yeah, that was really it. It was all about trying to sort of undermine that fluff that was it just was meaningless and actually was it was putting people in difficult situations because they were thinking, oh, well, I can get out of my financial problems by starting voiceover because this guy says I can earn X amount of dollars by, into my US.
Yeah. Anyway, we had a little glitch there. Hey,
Oh,
let me say a quick hello to my very dear friend Rolanda Watts, who, for those of you who don't have as much gray hair as me, don't remember when she had a show on TV, Rolanda. And she is a wonderful actress. She was a newscaster. She does
okay.
animation, lots of voiceover, and is just a wonderful human being. And her show has been picked up again, Minding Your Business.
Oh, cool.
So, yo,
Yeah.
Ro, what's up, girl? Oh boy, let's see. Um, there was something I wanted to. You and Karin have something new, a teaching platform.
Yeah, well, it's we've got our VO Breakfast Show podcast. So that is way less planned than VO School podcast. I was really meticulous with what happened what we covered in each episode, who was going to be guesting on it. This one is just I'm not going to swear on this episode, this show, but this is us just talking about voiceover unplanned. Um, and it's the only way we can really put it out because we just don't have the time to really sit down and sort of figure out what we're going to do. So we usually get on Zoom and we just go, right, what are we going to be talking about today? We press record and we just kind of wing it. And,
Oh, kind of like this show.
yeah, it's not too dissimilar. Um, and I don't know, I feel like it's more real and more natural, and it's we're not claiming what we're talking about is the gospel truth. It's just our experience and our thoughts on whatever it is, and occasionally we plan it out a bit more if it's a subject that we've really got to get right. If we're talking about union rules and stuff like that, we want to make sure we're not misleading anyone. But it's very, very informal, and it's good because it really capitalizes on our ability to just go, okay, right, we have our schedule at 11 on a Friday, Karen and I meet, and we just stick it on and record, and then we put it out. And it's very off the cuff. So, it's kind of fun. And I think it's, yeah,
That's really how I got started with this thing.
yeah,
Is I was having negative reaction to all the gurus and ninjas and so forth that were out there. Hey, give me your money. I get it. And I thought, what better way to serve the community than to bring people on, people who coach, people who are having success in their careers, even people who may not be as far along in their careers. But there's
yeah,
something to be learned from somebody that's a year or two in that has gotten started and what they're thinking and feeling and how they got their start. Uh,
yeah,
we got some old school folks that have been doing this for 30, 40 years, uh, and people who not as long, but because they're doing it now, starting now, there's a whole world that I didn't have to go through when I started my career.
yeah.
That is very different. I'm very fortunate that my career continues. Uh, but if I had to start today, I would have to do it a completely different way.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Actually, Karen and I talk about this a lot. That there's value in people that have been doing it for a long time and have seen the ebbs and flows of the industry and have gone through multiple changes. There's huge value in that. There's also value in people who are finding success in 2025 from scratch, because that is very valuable. I'm constantly on the lookout, and whenever people post about it or we speak to them, whatever, who are doing really well or who are on your show, I'm fascinated to hear how someone would start today and how they find success, sorry. And yeah, I mean, I'm not, I haven't been doing it for that long. And 16 years is long enough, but even in that time, it's changed hugely, hugely. It's unrecognizable from when I started. So you know,
And this is
it's
the
just
world
very
right now.
interesting. Yeah.
We look at things like uh, 95% of all the scientists who have ever lived are living right now,
Yeah. It's
because
crazy.
the amount of information that is being generated, and well, with AI and all that, it's moving faster and faster and faster.
Mm.
And I, looking at the world and the AIs of the world, and where we're going to go, I just hope that there's not a world when you have gray hair like mine that
I don't
is.
have any hair.
Well, the beard. Well,
I
we'll
got a
talk
bit of a
about the.
grey beard. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that's
I, my sincerest hope is that human beings will still be the artists. That it
yeah.
won't be some AI generating art uh, to buy on your walls and voices to listen to and sell you things and play the characters. It really needs to be human beings. Looking at what some of Hollywood has wanted to do, oh, we can get extras. Let's see. We'll get you in here. We'll shoot you for a day, pay you $150, and then you'll be in movies forever without
Yeah.
making another nickel.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think, television didn't destroy theater. Drum machines didn't destroy drummers.
No.
There's space for all of these things in the world, and yeah, maybe it's taken a big bite out of our industry, but I think there is always going to be space for humans wanting real human performances,
Yeah.
and it's just a case of how big of that pie is left, and
Yeah.
who's there
Yeah.
to fulfill that work. That's the mystery right now.
Let me ask you this: do you teach on a regular basis? Do people come to you and want to work with you?
Yeah, I do. I don't really advertise it. I let people come to me. I really enjoy working with people, and I'm kind of similar to you. I actually really like the performance coaching side of it.
Yeah.
But I've sort of found a bit of a niche of helping people to get into the industry and figure out a route map, like a
Okay.
roadmap, should I say.
Um, what are some of those? What is that roadmap? What are the things you would tell somebody knocking on the door, just getting started?
You know, it there are things that are evergreen, and there are things that are constantly changing. And I think the evergreen things are that you have to plant lots of seeds, and there are the performance aspects, there's the business aspect, there's the studio and the technical aspect, there's the lifestyle aspect. And when you're starting out, everything feels so incredibly disparate. And you're like, one day you're working on this and nothing seems connected. It's all just like really random. But the people that keep plugging away and keep working and striving and watering those plants, they eventually find that things start to coalesce. And people that give up too early, they don't get to that point where things start connecting. And then you can actually start to get momentum because you've planted all these different seeds, and then you're starting to get the rewards from it. So, you're getting a bit of reputation within the industry. You're getting some connections to production companies or whatever it is. You're getting consistent feedback. You're getting better at what you do, and you learn yourself as a voice talent. So then you start to know how to market yourself, moving forward, and what areas of the industry to really focus on and try and turbocharge, and other areas that maybe aren't quite right for you. But when you're starting out, it's just this big wall of mystery that you
It's
have to
it's
start
a
building.
giant elephant that has to be eaten one bite at a
Exactly.
time.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
interesting. The thing you were just talking about, the area that you want to go in. I find that often the business chooses what it wants from you. When I came to town, I wanted to be a Don LaFontaine. I wanted to be a trailer voice, and I've done my share of trailers, but not nearly the share of trailers I thought I was going to do. But other things came through. Tons of TV promos, lots of narration, commercials, animation, and video games, which weren't even a thing when I got started in this business. So you just don't. And audiobooks weren't a thing. Not that I'm interested in doing audiobooks, but that has become the big open door for people to get into this business. And once again, Nothing but respect for audiobook narrators. Not a thing that I think I could do every day, day after day after day after day. Oh, let's see.
Yeah,
I've
it's either
got,
your thing or it's not really, isn't it,
yeah,
with audiobooks? Either you absolutely love it or it's just totally not your thing. Can I just say, the
yes.
first time the first time I knew of you was as the voice of Hulu. And I was like, "Oh, it's that guy, it's the Hulu guy," whenever I heard your voice somewhere else.
That was one of the best gigs ever.
Yeah,
Um, and it total fluke. I'll just tell the story again. I haven't told it in a while. Uh, my then girlfriend invited me to go to a party with her at a girlfriend of hers house, and I went, and they were all talking in the kitchen. I sat down on the couch and kind of twiddled my thumbs, and there was a guy sitting next to me, and he really looked like a sad sack, and he goes, "Yeah, well, what do you do?" I said, "Oh, I do voiceover." "Oh, wow, I'm an engineer. There's this new thing of Hulu. It's about to start. They're looking for a voice. Give me your email address, and I'll send you an audition." I gave him my address. A couple of days later, I got the email. I did an audition. A week later, well, you're going to be the voice of Hulu, and it turned out to be one of the best gigs ever. I didn't meet the clients for about 2 years. Everything was done from home. They'd send me the scripts. The following program is brought to you with limited commercial interruption by insert.
yeah,
Uh, and it started off, it was just a few $100 a month. And within a year or so, it was a bunch of money every month.
yeah.
It was one of those gigs. Had it for 8 years. One of those gigs I was so sorry to see go.
Yeah, I mean, it
Uh,
doesn't even exist anymore, that job, right? I
no,
mean, there's
no,
there's not really
no,
announcing like that.
no. They tried somebody else for a little bit. I think they wanted to go with a younger voice. And the next thing you knew, that person was gone. But you don't know where your blessings are coming from.
Yeah, that's a
So
great story.
keep putting it out there. You don't have to go everywhere and handing everybody your card that you do voiceover, but when asked, let them know. Let them
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
Anyway, well, Jamie, we're overtime. It's 7:02. My
Oh,
goodness, we don't pay overtime.
I better go to bed.
Hey, listen, Jamie Muffet, thank you so much
Oh,
for
my pleasure.
joining me. This has been a
Thanks for
pleasure. This has
having me.
been a real pleasure for me because I've known of you through other voiceover friends of ours for so long. Uh, you have been your mark is on a lot of things like VOcation, evocation, the things you've been doing with Karen. You come up a lot, but I hadn't met you. I hadn't really seen you, and now I know why. You're hiding out in Bucks County, PA.
Yeah, the middle of nowhere. Well, it was
Middle.
a real pleasure. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you inviting me onto this. I had a great time, and I'm glad we got to connect finally.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I will say good night, and I'm sure we'll be talking again. Once again, thank you. And for everybody else, another episode of Ask Dave Fenoy Anything, and this one, like all the others, lives on my YouTube channel, Dave Fenoy Voiceover Training. You can go and check them all out one at a time. That also would be like eating an elephant one bite at a time. Can't do it in a night. If you're interested in coaching with me, davefenoy.com, click on the Study VO tab, and there you have it. And with that, I will say good night, and of course, book something.